Azriel, welcome to the Z Marketing Podcast. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Have been wanting you actually on the show for a while, been following your career. For the people who don't know you already, and haven't caught you on like the social media marketers podcast or something like that, please share with my audience a little bit about you and what you do.
Absolutely. So I started in the online marketing space back in 2012. I worked for a nonprofit organization for a handful of years. And back then I really got to, try my hand in each thing, some email marketing, some SEO work, some, landing page optimization. And then I discovered Facebook ads probably late 2012, early 2013. And it just basically became my most of my job in that company for a while. In 2015, I came to my boss and I said, we've been doing this now for a long time and getting like unbelievable results. We should do this for other brands. And he said, that's a terrible plan. So I decided to do that plan and I left the company in July of 2015. So it's actually, we're only a couple of weeks away from my 10-year anniversary of starting my business. It was pretty crazy. Thank you.
Mazel
Um, and since then, I've been doing Facebook ads full time for businesses, July 1st, 2015. And I've had the pleasure of working with tons of different types of brands, from amusement parks to traveling bands to fishing lures to leather, like super expensive luxury leather bags, to working like I run ads for Chris Brown, has a shoe company. I run ads for him from his 144 million follower Instagram account. I've sold something like 250 million plus, maybe 300, probably closer to $300 million worth of products for clients, business coaches, real estate, you name it. I probably run ads for it. And then on top of that, I've also taught Facebook ads. So I have like a course on Fiverr with several thousand students. I've spoken internationally from social media marketing world to Slovenia. I gave a 7-hour lecture, and so I've had probably something like 20,000 students in total learn Facebook and social media from me. And I've been on quite a few podcasts. Uh, and
Including this one
that
now.
and now I'm on this one now. I've made it all the way, all those steps to get to here, to finally arrive on this podcast.
You've reached the top, the peak. I don't think
This
you
is it.
can get much higher from the Z Marketing podcast. Well, thank you. So, yeah, I want to dig into some of the verticals you work with. And before I go into that, just are you mainly focused on, obviously, when you say Facebook ads, that also can mean, Instagram ads, Meta. They've since kind of rebranded, or Meta's the parent company now that
Correct.
owns
So
Facebook.
Facebook, the Facebook ad manager has placements on quite a few locations, but the major today is actually Instagram. So when you say Facebook ads, it really is mostly Instagram, but there's still,
Yep.
there's still almost 3 billion active users on Facebook per month. So there's still quite a lot of people there. There are also placements. Facebook has an entire thing called Audience Network that includes something that you'd imagine like Google display ads on apps and on articles. So that is also a placement.
Mhm.
But the far majority, I'd probably imagine 90% of most businesses are spending their money on Instagram and Facebook, whether that's feed or story ad.
Right, on Meta ads. And
Yeah.
do you also do Google or Bing or other or LinkedIn ads
So
or
I focus exclusively on Facebook and Instagram. I have done a handful of tests on TikTok, yet to find any actual good results on TikTok.
yeah, it's still
Um,
improving a lot. Yeah.
still a way to go there. I find Google and Facebook are way different types of businesses. Like
Mhm.
the way to approach Facebook ads and Google are dramatically different. So every time I've like considered learning it, I just realized that there's just people way better than me that are considerably cheaper, that are probably better at Google ads than I am. And so whenever someone comes to me and says, hey, you want to do Google ads? I'm like, for the money, you probably should pay that other person who excels at that and give them the Google ads.
Yeah, you found your niche. I mean, and if
Yeah.
something's working, you keep doing that. And and one great question I have for you, I know what I say when people ask me this, but if someone, you get a client, I think people get distracted by shiny object syndrome. And I'm sure you've had somebody say, hey, Facebook's great and all, but what about TikTok? What about some random new social media platform that's popular for like 2 months and then everyone forgets about. Shouldn't we run ads there? What is your response when people
So,
do that?
so, so the answer for me is that there's really two sides of it. So, side one is the platforms I actually enjoy being on. So, I happen to really enjoy being on TikTok. I find there's so much content on there that I'm not finding on Instagram, or maybe I will in about a month after
Mhm.
it'll
Right.
finally get to Instagram. But I actually enjoy being on TikTok. But whenever I talk to ad buyers there, they're never actually able to show me good results. So, what I want is I want a platform that's proven to get results for my clients. They're going to put money into it and they're going to get results from it. And so the reason why in 2015 I came to my boss and I said, hey, this is something we should do is because I had been getting such amazing results. Like we're talking about, we were spending about 20 to 25 cents per lead back in 2012, 13, 14,
Wow. Yeah.
right? And we were making $1.25 a year from those people for a nonprofit organization. So I said, like, let's do some math here. A business that actually knows how to do what they're doing and properly collect leads for a good price and have an amazing product to sell, they would get amazing returns. And that's exactly what happened. So I met quite a few e-commerce brands. I worked with a big swimwear brand for a long time, about 5 years. And we were getting on average somewhere between like 8 and 13 times return on ad spend. So you imagine like you had the opportunity to invest every dollar you put in to make $11, right? And so
No
that's just
brainer.
the opportunity. And then we said, like, why don't we test TikTok? So for them, I was willing at that point. We're spending, at the height of it, 630,000 was about the highest we spent. But imagine between 400 and $650,000 in ad spend per month. To throw $10,000 at TikTok to see what happens, it's a worthwhile trial for me to learn. It's a worthwhile trial to see if there's a place to expand and spend more money. That was a test I was willing to do. But then there's businesses that come to me and say, hey, I want to run YouTube ads. I'm like, listen, YouTube is like totally not in my domain. I don't even work with you. You're coming to me for YouTube ads. It's not worth it at this stage for me to try to learn YouTube ads. As I said, there are just people, this has been around, YouTube and Google have been around for a long time. There are
Yeah.
experts in that space. Let them go be experts. I'd much rather you use that money for them, those people. And then when you're ready for Facebook, whatever that means, at that point, then it makes sense to work together. So really, it depends. If there's like, I really want to learn on this platform and I want some experience to get to try, I'll come to the client and be like, listen, let me run the ads for 2, 3 months. I won't charge you, or I'll charge you a very small amount of money just because I want to learn it. And
Hmm.
then I'll go and test it. But yes, I've been around through the clubhouses and the meerkats and the Periscope and the Ask Whale and the Cyberdust and the Snapchat. I was on all those platforms and I used them. And but like at the end of the day, throughout all of that, Facebook stood the test of time and continues to get those results. And I even tell you a quick story. In 2020, I was speaking at Social Media Marketing World, and I was at the speakers there's like a party they do the first night with the speakers, and I'm standing next to this guy who was speaking about LinkedIn ads. His name is AJ Wilcox. He's a really great guy, and he was probably at the time he was like the largest spender on LinkedIn ads.
I think he was on, I think I listened to him either on that podcast, the social media Mark Examiner, Michael Stelzner, or Convince and Convert, one of those.
So he at the time was the biggest spender on LinkedIn in the whole world, which is like crazy to talk about. And I said to him, I said, today it's 2020, and there's 11 tracks at this event about Facebook ads, and there's going to be thousands of people at this event coming to hear us, the people talking about Facebook ads today. But in a couple of years from now, you're going to be the main event, because I believed at that time, maybe it was 2017 or whatever year it was. At that time, I believed that in just another few years, LinkedIn would take over. They had the opportunity to basically undercharge cost per click. The quality of some of the data that they have on there for job titles, Facebook doesn't really have.
Right,
Like
right.
LinkedIn, you give everything away to LinkedIn about the business, how many people work at the
I was
business.
just explaining this on a call yesterday to somebody. Yep.
And so I basically came to him and I said, to me, it's a no-brainer. LinkedIn's going to be the champion. You're going to be the main show. There's going to be 30 people, 30 people speaking at LinkedIn ads in a couple of years. What happened between the first time I spoke to AJ and the third time I spoke to AJ? Microsoft purchased LinkedIn. And they basically are such a juggernaut of a company that the money they make from ads doesn't really mean anything to them. So they never really focused on trying to be a competitive ad platform. And
Right.
still today, in fact, I think when I spoke to him back in, I don't remember what year it was, he basically said, since we spoke, not only did they not lower the cost, become more competitive, they increased the costs. They were
Oh
up
yeah,
30,
the
40%,
CPAs there are very high.
super
Um,
expensive. And so
yeah.
essentially, I believed at that time, whatever year it was, that LinkedIn would essentially eat Facebook's lunch for any B2B, any serious B2B business. And I was wrong, not because it wouldn't have happened on their own, but because Microsoft came in and said, we just don't really care about this money. We don't care about being competitive. We want LinkedIn for the data. So the data is already available to us. We already, got what we needed. We don't care about this little bit of money being spent on the platform. And so, like, I'm always on the lookout for a platform that potentially could take over. I told my wife when I started, we'd have 5 to 7 good years on Facebook. That was in 2015. That was almost 10 years ago when I told it's probably about 10 years ago, almost to that conversation. I never expected Facebook to keep on outperforming. Pinterest has been around just as long. No, who's using
Yeah.
Pinterest, right? And so it just, to me, if you're a business and you are trying to reach a specific type of person that you can name their interests or their behaviors, you know where they live, you know their age, and so like Facebook's the place. The cost per impression is lower than essentially anywhere else but TikTok. Their cost per click is essentially lower than anywhere else but TikTok, and their conversion rate is higher than TikTok by miles. And so if you're just looking like, where can I spend my money and get quality users to my website that will buy my product, I would say 80 to 90% of the time, the answer to that question is Facebook, Instagram. And so that's why I focus on the platform that continues to work. And, when we all move to crazy VR headsets or who knows, whatever we're Elon Musk's like brain thing and we have ads there, then that will be the place that will make sense to advertise when we start, moving to other platforms. But for now, it continues to outperform everywhere else.
Exactly. Well said. And a few points on what you said. So for sure, I think LinkedIn didn't use nearly the full potential it could have. On the flip side, Microsoft Bing, very underrated. There's a lot of underpriced attention there. We've had some results there. I totally share your outlook that, you should focus on where you're getting the results and making money now, while also, having some budget set aside if you have it in your budget to experiment with
For sure.
secondary or third platforms, and also watch where things are going. I also think I think years ago Gary Vee was saying about, don't underestimate Mark Zuckerberg. He's a shrewd guy, and like Meta is going to grow and change. A lot of people thought they were down for the count years ago, and that, like you said, has not been the case. And I also, the one thing I tell my clients, I say we're platform agnostic. We have run ads on Bing, on LinkedIn, on other places. But the main thing is, where are you going to get results? The vast
Right.
majority is, like you said, Google
Right.
and Meta, depending on the
Right.
business and the goals. And but I think a lot of people get caught up in, I'm B2B, so I should be on LinkedIn. And then you kind of have to explain to them the differences of these different ad products and
Right.
social or search
Right.
platforms. So what kind of verticals do you usually work with? I know you mentioned a bunch before, but what are,
So my
yeah,
main focus today is definitely e-commerce. Definitely is where the space that I'm in now, the far majority of my clients. I do still do quite a lot of business coaching ads, and that was what really my bread and butter from 2017 to 2019 was really business coaches. But that's not really the main. Maybe
you
two or
used to
three
see a ton
clients.
of ads for those. Probably
Well,
yours.
possibly mine. I actually had a post quite a few years ago. I'm the guy who runs the ads for coaches who sell coaching programs to coaches to teach them how to coach coaches.
That's so
Um,
meta.
and so I definitely have quite a lot of experience there. But at this point, just the e-commerce, the difference between a business coach spend and an e-commerce business spend is you're a business coach most of the time, unless you're like a Tony Robbins type business coach, you only have so many slots for clients, right? So like, let's just imagine a typical business coach, maybe they'll have 10, 15 clients, right? So how much could you imagine spending to get 15 clients? Like if you spent $30,000 a month in ads and you haven't filled your 15 slots, like that's already like a crazy thought process, right?
Right,
So,
you
so
got
to
to
me,
charge a lot of money.
unless you're at a place where you're like somehow able to manage thousands of coaching clients, the ad spend is relatively small comparatively to other niches. But talk about an e-commerce
Oh,
business.
sorry, just one thing. But they often have courses and asynchronous kind of things, right?
So yes and no, but even still, they're not. Again, I would imagine that 90% of business coaches that are running ads, they're not spending above $50,000 a month
Yeah, that's
on
fair. Yeah,
ads. Like there are these enormous coaches that we can name that are like, I assume Mel Robbins probably spends more than $50,000, but she's in the top like 1% of all coaches in the world.
exactly. Yeah.
But then you talk about like an e-commerce business, and an e-commerce business that's generating possibly even around the same amount of money as the coaches with their, 5, 10, 15. I've seen a $50,000 program before, like these crazy expensive programs. If this e-commerce business is making somewhere between even $3 and $10 million a year, they could easily be spending $100,000 a month in ads. And
Yeah.
that's like a small e-commerce business. I've met e-commerce businesses. I met a company last year. I'm actually going next week to Shop Talk, and I met a company at Shop Talk that was making $300 million a year from Google Ads. They spent $50 million a year on Google Ads
Wow.
to turn that into about 250 million, and then the other 50 was organic, like email retargeting and like stuff like that. But the far majority of their ad spend was Google Ads, and that's just one company making. And
So,
they're not the biggest e-commerce business. Like, it's like crazy to think about. Like, they're not even the biggest, and they're spending millions of dollars. Like True Classic Tees, I think they said last year they generated somewhere in the ballpark of $300 million, and they had spent like 75 million just on Meta, right? And so
yeah.
you just like enormous amount. So that's why I basically shifted over, because I said, where can I really expand in large amounts of ad spend? And I found that unless you're going to work with 30 coaches, you're not going to spend anywhere near $500,000. But I could work with one e-commerce business and spend $500,000 a month. And so that's really
Exactly. And you have a lot more with more ad spend. Yeah, there's more that you can do, more that you can test.
right,
I think a lot of people don't realize that some platforms like TikTok are very good for mass brand awareness at this point in time.
right,
Google and Meta are mature ad products. They've collected a lot of data, and anyone doing e-commerce, they may have thousands of SKUs, and they're not limited. There's no bottleneck.
right.
It's much more scalable. In terms of e-commerce ads that you do on Meta, what are the within e-commerce, like what are the type of products that
I
you're
happen to really like fashion businesses. And so I've worked in swimwear. I've run ads now, like right now, for about 6 dress companies. I don't even think that's exaggerated, probably more than 6 dress companies. I run ads for quite a lot of bag companies over the years. And I mentioned the shoes. Chris Brown's company is called
yes.
Oracles. So the reason why I like, and I'm even running ads right now for a men's shirt company called Mystery Cricket. They sell cricket shirts. So if you're looking to buy a cricket shirt, you can buy from Mystery Cricket.
I
I think
was
it's
looking for one of those.
you were looking for one of those, I can imagine. .com. I think it's mostly UK product, but if you have any people that are looking. And so the reason I like fashion is because what I like about ads is there's lots of types of ads, but if you're going to scroll through social media, you have to get the person to look at your picture or video, and within like a handful of seconds, they get it, right? And so if you're showing off a pair of earrings, they see the earring and they either say, I like it or I don't like it, and then they scroll by. And the people that stop and click, they're going to be the ones that are interested. The people that like the bag in the picture or are looking to solve this problem that I have this laptop and I can't find a nice bag. I'm going into a corporate setting, and that's exactly what this company that I'm working with, it's called Olita NYC, and they sell luxury leather backpacks for women in corporate offices. So they want to be able to come with their laptop and have all their stuff fit. And guess what? Videos do well for them. Videos of them packing bags. Like, here's all the stuff that's going to fit into my bag. They have this nice, super high quality leather bag, and then they just put all this stuff in. Wow, look, the whole table of stuff, and now it's nice, organized in my bag. And so that's why I like fashion, because fashion, if they've managed organically to post and find users that are interested and engaged, whether that's through discovery, through TikTok, through whatever. There's so many brands out there that I like see their organic, I like beg, like I wish I could run their Facebook
Hmm.
ads for them because I
Yeah.
just see like there's a company called Odd Muse based in the UK, and this woman, I think she's like under 25 years old. I don't even know, and she just exploded on TikTok with content, and now she's running a lot of Facebook ads, but it took her like 2 years from when she was exploding on TikTok to actually leverage social like Facebook ads. And just like the content that is doing well for you, that's showing off your product, could now be used as ads to reach people that you're not currently reaching, leveraging your lookalike audiences, behaviors, the algorithm, whatever data you're able to collect, and take that very content that's working so well for you and reach either your existing customers to come by again, your warm audiences that know you but haven't yet bought, or totally cold people to come and buy. And that very same one piece of content can do that for all of those things. And that's why I love fashion, because it's just like you either like this thing or you don't.
It's
And if
visual.
and if they can do a good job of creating high quality content organically, then we're 80% of the way there to having efficient, scaling, optimized Facebook ads. And so that's really why that space to me is just a really big opportunity. As long as they can keep making more product, they can keep selling it. So
Exactly. And with fashion, that's about creating new products every season. There's a new
right.
line, fashions go in and out. And I think you make a great point. Um, Sorry, one second. Sorry about that. When you're reaching people in fashion, you have to basically it's a visual medium, especially on Meta. They stop scrolling. This is something they're interested in. I totally also understand and relate to seeing a brand on social and saying, "Oh my God, like why aren't they doing ads? Like they could be killing it." I think that maybe one reason they hesitate is maybe they're just either they don't have the revenue yet, maybe. So that's why they're focusing on the organic. But I think one thing with that the reason why it can be frustrating is that they may be exploding in terms of followers, likes, comments, whatever, but maybe only a small fraction of the audience is actually buying anything. Whereas the ads, is what I tell people, is you get to control the reach. You have much greater control over who actually experiences your content and your brand, and they're usually a more qualified fit to actually drive, business results. Um, so, where are you, now in terms of like, um, where you think things are going? Um,
Yeah.
Actually, and what would you advise somebody who's maybe getting started with meta ads? I think that's the number one question I get asked. I'm just starting with meta ads, maybe with ads in general.
Yeah.
What's a good starting budget? Over what period of time should I do it before I decide to either pivot or stop doing it? What's your advice to the
Yeah.
small business
So
owner?
let's answer the first question. I'm just getting into ads now. Where should I go? So the first question you have to ask, which we kind of touched on earlier, was to me, there's three types of ads. Three types of ad platforms. So to me, the search engines is intent-based marketing. Somebody is looking to solve a problem right now. My computer broke, I need a fix. My tooth is hurting, I need a root canal. My garden needs gardening, my toilet needs fixing. Intent-based marketing, the YouTubes, the Pinterests, the Google, the Bings. Intent. So if you're a business that's focused on solving a very specific problem that people are actively looking to be solved, you have a place to go first. That's going to be where I put my money first. The second bucket is what I would call interest/behavior. So this is a person loves skiing, a person loves yoga, a person reads lots of books, right? So that's the interest. And then behaviors is they're a parent with this many kids, or they drive this car, or they live in this place. That is, to me, the meta bucket. And then the third bucket is the TikTok bucket, which I call, if I remember the word that I use, impulse purchase. And
Mm-hmm.
so on TikTok, you're scrolling through something. I'm not actively looking for anything specific, but all of a sudden I see this crazy cool pen. Okay, I literally, like, just yesterday I was scrolling through TikTok and I saw some Japanese company made the greatest pen ever created for $87 or something, who knows? And it just shows
Hmm.
you why it's good and how it keeps the ink steady and all this stuff. And so it's just like, I wasn't looking to buy this pen, but like now I need this pen, right? And so I remember years ago, David Dobrik had like this thing, and he basically just like touched the button and all of a sudden expanded into this giant like saber type of whatever item.
Hmm.
And it just went crazy viral on TikTok because it's an impulse. Like, the thing's $20. Is it going to work? I don't know. Am I ever going to use it? I don't know. But like, it's kind of cool. I guess I'll put my money in and I'll buy it. And so that to me is like the impulse bucket. And that's where TikTok works really well. You see it, you're like, I need that thing. It's not so expensive. Let me go and buy it. And
Yeah,
so
it's like on
that's,
Temu. Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. So that's to me, if I'm just starting out as a business and I'm ready to put money into ads, I want to ask myself, which bucket makes sense for me as like my customers? Where are they going to go? And that's where I put my money first. If the answer to that question is Facebook, right? The answer is interest behavior. So I met this woman a couple months ago. I wish the answer was that the ads worked out, but they didn't. But we're going to get to the story in a second. She sells products specifically for surfers. And so to me, there's an interest for surfing. You could directly target those people. When we ran the ads, we went and looked at who engaged, who liked and commented, and we found that 85 to 95% of all the people that commented in their profile picture had a picture of a surfboard. Like, that's not something you could do on TikTok. That's not something you could do on Google. On the very first dollars we were spending money, we were reaching people that had what did I just say? Surfboards in their profile pictures. And so that's something that Facebook can do for the lowest price at the highest quality to drive good quality traffic to your website. So now the question is, if I was just starting out and I had some amount of budget, what would I do? And the answer for me is always the lowest hanging fruit. So today, hopefully, you have traffic coming to your website. As you mentioned, some of them are just kind of scrolling, some of them are buying, but like, there's this, let's say this stat. Right now on a regular e-commerce site, you're converting about 2% of all traffic, probably closer to 1%, but let's just say 2% for the
Yeah.
argument. So that means that 98% of all people coming to your site are not purchasing. And so obviously, you're sending reminder emails and SMSs. Like, obviously you're doing that. And you're collecting another, maybe 1 or 2% over the long haul of those people. But then at that point, you still have about 95% of people that haven't converted that have come to your website. And there is no cheaper traffic for that targeting than Facebook. Obviously,
Meta ads, I think, crushes it like most in remarketing.
remarketing. And
That's
so
where you
that's
get.
where I want to start. If you're just starting out on social ads, it makes sense for you to be on Facebook. The very first people I want to talk to are my email list, my website visitors, my social engagers, my video viewers, that group of people. I want to spend, obviously, as much as I can first on those people. And then at some point, you're going to hit a cap. And the reason is because you don't have an unlimitedly large size audience. Likely, if you've never run ads before, you might only have 10,000 followers. You might only have 10,000 email subscribers. So you can't spend $1 million a month just talking to your 10,000 email subscribers. Like, you're just going to run out of people. But again, if I only have $20, I want to be talking to that group of people because they've already come to my website. They've already gotten to cart, and then they just left at that stage. Like, I want
They've
to
expressed interest. Yeah.
just let me come back and do it. But what else does that allow me to do? Once I started running ads and spending money on those people and it starts working, I will learn patterns. What will I learn? The cost per impression, the click-through rate on the ads. I will learn which type of ads convert. I will learn from Facebook who, within the targeting that I'm doing, are the people buying? Where do they live? How old are they? What platform are they seeing ads on? All of this information Facebook's going to tell me when I run ads to those people. Now I now have in my arsenal way more data because I spent $25 a day targeting my warm people. I know exactly what ads work for those people. I know which platform is the best one, Facebook or Instagram. I know mobile or desktop. I know feed or story. I know the size of the image or video. I know what videos to make in the future based on the best performing. Now I could go to Facebook and say, can you make lookalikes? Can you target these interests? Can you target these behaviors? Can you target these locations? Can you, maybe I'll do broader ASC targeting and let it figure it out. But I'm coming to that stage in my ad. There's a siren. I have to go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go. Yes.
Okay. We'll pick it up later. Stay
Yes.
safe. Uh, Azriel, okay. Just to close out the episode, I'm glad you're safe and well. Thank you so much for answering my questions. I know that my listeners will benefit tremendously from your insights about meta ads strategy. Where can people find you and learn more?
Absolutely. So I spend a lot of time on social media. Who would have thought? Um, the best two places for me are Facebook and LinkedIn. I try to post there as often as I can when I'm not running to bomb shelters during podcast recordings. And yeah, and if anyone ever has any questions, you just send me a message. I came from Zev's podcast, and I'm looking for some help here or there, and I'd love to see how I could help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Azriel, and looking forward to connecting more. And we'll speak to you soon. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.